from hour to hour even,
your life
Yeah, and so it's really important to keep those in mind whenever you do things and not just write something off because it didn't work that day. Maybe try it once or twice, but it's just, and not take things at face value. Understand that, there's different people, there are different populations being tested on that aren't you maybe. So it's just being really smart and being critical, kind of not accept basically what you're doing when you lift in weights, like we talked about, being an active lifter, not passively just moving the weight, but being active about it and understanding what's going on. I feel like that same type of mindset is what you should go into, in life, just being critical, not consuming things passively. But that's just how I've been living.
So it's like almost like, would you recommend like finding some foundational principles that have been there since like the dawn of time, periodization and things of that nature, and then from there, like using your own experience as a gauge or kind of like a titration where you're kind of like meeting your principle, but also at the same time you're pushing past the principle to see where you can get to, and then from that knowledge base, like you did the log, you did all these things consecutively, and you're like, holy shit, this is tiring me out, I'm doing horrible. Using that as like your data, so to speak, and using that data to then change your experiment and then keep moving forward.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, for example, we were programming my girlfriend's deadlift.
Yeah.
And Prilipin's table says, I think 24 reps is optimal for that 60 to 70% range or something like that. Yeah. But we had 10 sets of 3 for her for the longest time.
Yeah.
But we were still within the parameters of periodization, right? So we were doing 10 sets of 3 for a really long time. And then we kind of went by feel, right? So we didn't follow just the percentages of Prilipin's table. It was kind of a guide. But then we went by feel, and once she started not progressing that way, I said, okay, let's just drop the reps. And then go back to Prilipin's table, try that again, and see what happens. And so it's, I mean, because essentially you're experimenting on yourself or on your client or whoever it may be each time. So you need to whittle down those variables every time. But eventually, she just hit that 50-pound PR on her deadlift. So, nice. I mean, things worked. But, I still follow the parameters of, overload with volume at first, and then you're going to move to that, basic strength phase, and then you're going to peak later on. So, I mean, we're still following it, but it's just – everyone's different. Just like I'm not sure the actual numbers. I'm throwing around a lot of ideas without the actual specifics. But, in women, isn't it the majority of women are able to do more reps at, say, like 85% than men are or something like that? So, I mean, all these things are different. And I'm sure that it's different with every person, too. These are all just fuzzy limits, really, is the way I think about it, because you could be on the edge, you could be a little bit outside, but it's just fuzzy limits for me.
And I think people throw out things like pseudoscience or bro science out there, like it's like the plague. I mean, it's funny because like these guys will sit behind their computer screens like keyboard warriors, they call them, and they'll just start spewing all this like knowledge they've learned, and you may hear this person on YouTube talking about their experience with something, whether it's strongman, whether it's powerlifting, and they've discovered something that really works for them, and they've imparted that to their clients, they've imparted that to people around them, and it's changed their lives. And these people completely dismiss it as pseudoscience or bro science because it's like not something that has like published journals or been in ex-phys journals, whatever you want to call it. And I think there has to be this kind of joining or hybrid style of bringing these two spectrums together, the spectrum of scientific study and the spectrum of like experiential knowledge and anecdotal knowledge, and bringing them together to where people can actually learn from both sides of the spectrum rather than just dismissing one altogether, because I feel like there's a lot of hate, especially online, because it's easy to do.
Yeah, and then I mean on the other side of the coin too, as a coach, you need to understand that just because something works for you, it's not always going to work for everyone else. And like Louis Simmons has said, everything works, nothing works forever.
Yeah.
So, I did know a strength coach one time. He was just a freak, but everything he did, he tried to make his his athletes do it,
Yeah.
Because it worked for him. Well, that's not always the case.
Yeah.
And people need to be open for that. They need to understand that one cue that has worked for everyone that you've coached, well, eventually you're going to run into someone that cue doesn't work for, and you don't need to say that cue over and over again and louder because it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you need to be able to stop, be aware, self-evaluate, just like, if unfortunately we don't video ourselves coaching. I'm sure some people do, but they're more advanced than I am. But just being able to reflect on that and understand where you're, it's a consultative process the entire time, and understanding that. But yeah, I totally agree with you that the taking the science, taking your experience, and then, going forward from there. I mean, that's the way to go. Just because there's a lot of guidelines, but those guidelines are not strict at all. There's just so many variables that I feel like we haven't even begun to hit them all. I mean, we don't really. How often do you see tests on actual trained athletes in the first place?
That's true.
So
we're getting close to an hour here. I want to ask you this question, and so we're gonna make history right now and let's just say, like, if you could impart like 6 or 7, you can impart some sort of knowledge to 6 or 7 generations from now, like, because like the Native Americans, like, they had this vision, like, act from a place where you can impact like 7 generations, and that's freaking powerful. Like, I think if we all lead our lives like that way, we could probably do some amazing things. So if you were able to impart that kind of knowledge, or even do something phenomenal for people that are 7 generations from now, like, what would you do? What would you say? What kind of knowledge would you impart? Take your time.
Oh man. Well, I guess these things would be a part of who I am, right? I mean, if they're that important to me, hopefully I've made them a part of who I am. And so one of them is something that I taught my first class today. It was the first day of the semester, and it was just syllabus day, but I told the class that I want them to think of it as a learning community, and I want them to feel like each person in there has something to offer. And I think because we all have our own experiences to pull from, we have all, you're a master in one thing that I might not have ever done before. Everyone, there is someone better at something than you, at probably everything except maybe one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, so understanding that, and understanding that, you have value as a person because your experiences are unique, I think is huge. And I think it's easily overlooked, but at the same time, I think it's very, very powerful because, say, for me as an academic, it's not, oh, wow, this was a really good job. It's here, this is what's wrong with it, which is, part of the game, and that's all right. It forces you to have tough skin, and there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with trying to be better. But that took a toll on me there for a while, but I started to realize, well, wait a second, like, I've done some cool stuff, and I can help others, learn from that. And, I've gone through the job process, and so I can help students. I can at least empathize with them that, well, I know it's really hard to look for a job, but, et cetera, and give advice and try to offer help. But I think that is definitely one of the guidelines or one of the just knowledge nuggets that I would impart to people, because we all are valuable for reasons, and knowing it is a lot better, because there's so many people that I feel like they have so much going for them and they just don't realize it. And so just kind of reflecting on that, and that is really a segue into probably the next one, and we've mentioned it before, but being aware, being mindful, understanding what's going on. I mean, it's hard for me and my girlfriend to find a TV show to watch because I tear them apart sometimes, because I'm just thinking to myself, like, this is just going on. Like, there's no substance to this story except for the fact that, at 21 minutes out of a 30-minute episode, that they just have introduced something new or whatever. And so I'll try to take a step back and try to analyze what's going on or try to be critical. And that's what I mean is just, being aware of things, being critical and being very active in the things that you're doing. And sometimes that gets on people's nerves. I know it gets on my girlfriend's nerves. I'm sure it gets on some of my family's nerves at times when I just can't let it go. Or I'm even a comedy stop sometimes, right? Because it's just like, oh, well, that wasn't funny because it was just crude humor. Like he just said a penis joke or something. It's just, it doesn't work for me. So I don't know. For really, those two things are something that they really round it up for me. Just, it's helped me a lot. I really value it. And I think being able to think about things, being critical is the same. You're then able to, I'm not going to get conspiracy theory on you or anything, but being able to at least filter through some of the things that you see online or on the news. There's been a lot of racial tensions lately, and being able to maybe filter through that and see what you think is the actual truth that's going on without blindly following a narrative, that may be going on by one side, the other side, the next side, in this tetrahedron of sides or whatever that we have going on. But those two overall would I know it's not 6 or 7, but I feel very passionate enough that those could be, as much passion for those two as I am for 6 or 7 other things.
And I honestly think that was that's a theme for this whole podcast, like self-awareness and seeing your own value and not just taking everything for what people feed you. Recognizing your own value. That's awesome. That's really empowering. And I hope all you guys out there take that message to heart and feel it in your own body. Experience it for yourself. Experiment with your own experiences, and then tell us about it. I think that's powerful. That's how we learn. That's how you learn, and that's how we all learn together. And I just want to thank Dom for coming out, man. Appreciate it, dude. It means a lot you came out here, and I'd love to have you again. We can go on and on all day about this stuff, but where can they find you if they wanted to talk to you or find you on social media?
Cool. Yeah, I was gonna ask if I could drop that, but I'm on Facebook. Dominic Dominic Morais Morais. That's me on Facebook. I'm not as I'm pretty professional on Facebook, and I keep it relatively low key so that the things that I do say are a little bit more powerful. But I also have an Instagram, and that name is Brainy Brawn. So BRAINYBRAWN. No spaces or anything like that. I was lucky enough to snag a nice name that didn't need an underscore or anything. But that's where a lot of my lifting videos are, and linked up with, basically my girlfriend got me on Instagram. I don't have as many followers as she does, but yeah, I'd love to, if anything, maybe not even share stories, but share training stories, share PRs, share, celebrate those with people. I'll give you a like, so it's easy to do. But yeah, I really appreciate it, Samir. This is really fun. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, dude.
I'm happy that you have as many followers and you're impacting people that like this. It's great.
Appreciate it, man. Well, make sure you check out Dom, guys. Contact him, talk to him. He's got a lot of knowledge. Until next time, peace, beings.